hello to another cider-fueled book check. Hi, I'm Jecks, and today I'm talking about Boy Bishop's Glovemaker, which was a different little book. I'd spent ages wanting to write a Christmas story. Ever since the first book came out, I've been thinking about different types of Christmas story I could write, and of course the worst trouble is that you get stuck into a series and none of the editors want to take on a separate type of story, so all of the ideas I put forward didn't come to anything. However, when I wrote a Templar series book which had Christmas in it, that worked all right. This is one of those odd books where the editor was quite grumpy at first because she said that she really liked the poor victim who dies in the first few pages and couldn't I have kept him alive a bit longer. In short, no, he had to die. It's a fun book though because it goes through not just the different things that the city would do, it also goes through the really rather crazy world of Exeter Cathedral at Christmas, because the Bishop, Stapledon, used to avoid going down to Exeter at Christmas like the plague, purely because it was all fools. And what used to happen was you would have the Lord of Misrule and complete madness and mayhem going on, so you would have for a day the complete reversal of all of the positions within the cathedral. So the bishop for the day would become the least important person, and the lowest choir boy would be elected to be the boy bishop for the day. And anything that the boy bishop said was law because he was a bishop. So you would have people running amok in the cathedral. You would have the kids having a great time at the expense of all of the canons and the bishop and others. But there were some quite important things. For example, one of the things was that there would be sets of gloves produced and handed out to people who were there to be commended. That may not sound very important today, but gloves in medieval England were pretty valuable. Glove makers were highly valued members of the community because really pretty much anything you wanted to do, gloves were a very useful item. In the winter you'd have the peasants would make themselves really thick but usable gloves which would have basically 2 fingers, so you'd have a slot for each of those 4 fingers and then a separate one for your thumb. Big and clumsy but useful when you're out and wielding an axe, better than getting your hands all frozen. But for people who lived in cities, people who were wealthy, they'd all have really well made light pigskin gloves that would keep them warm when they were out in the streets. Because you've got to bear in mind that in medieval England, I mean, most of the houses didn't have windows. When it was cold out, it was cold indoors as well. All of the paintings that you see of even kings and important people would still be wearing their coats and everything indoors because it was damn cold. But this book goes through some of the different crazier aspects of medieval life at Christmas, and there's a fairly extensive author's note in this one to go through all of the different things that people will get up to, because the one thing that's important when you're writing medieval or historical books is you don't want to put too much detail in the book. It sounds like you're trying to preach to people. Much better, I find, to take all of the stuff that's extraneous and not really relevant to the story and shove that straight into an author's note, because then you can see that I've done a bit of research, but you don't get slowed down when you're reading the book. So there you go. Boy Bishop's Glovemaker. Old book, old cover, new cover. It's available on Kindle, all of the other electronic formats. And if you like this, don't forget, tick the like box. Do please share it. Add any comments that you want to the bottom. And subscribe to the feed, because there's a lot more. I'm not just going to be doing reviews of my own books. I've got to get through the whole lot. There's a lot of them. But what I'm really going to be doing with this channel in the future is having a lot more hints and tips for writers, especially students and creative writers, so that hopefully it's a little bit more informative and useful. So thanks. Like it, subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff, and buy the book. Thank you. Cider. Cheers.